It's Binjang 91.5, and we're in Studio 2 with Tony Graham, and I've got Matthew Dickerson doing Tech Talk. Good afternoon, Matthew.
Good afternoon, Tony. Great to be chatting to you again.
As it always is. And look, we're going to start off with our favourite little topic here, and that's to do with electric cars, or EVs as they call them, electric vehicles. And the first thing I'd like to ask you about is the new Tesla, and it's really exciting what it can do. The cost isn't so exciting, but anyway, the new Tesla, it can get me from 100 kilometres per hour faster, faster than 2.6 seconds. So that's amazing, isn't it?
Well, it is. The current Tesla in ludicrous mode can go from 0 to 100 in 2.6 seconds. And you think that's pretty fast. And the reality is, do you really need to go from 0 to 100 that fast? But obviously Tesla think you do, because they've got 3 new models they've announced, a revamp of the Model S, and then a new model called the Plaid model, and then the Plaid Plus. Now, these names, ludicrous and Plaid, are taken from Spaceballs, the Mel Brooks movie that was a Star Wars parody. And so the ludicrous mode, again, 2.6 seconds, that's available now. We've got people driving around in those vehicles as we speak. But the new Plaid version will go from 0 to 100 in 1.99 seconds. Now, they've gone under that 2 seconds.
Amazing. Yeah,
they've gone
that's amazing.
Under
it
that
makes you wonder how they...
Because the benchmark for the ridiculously expensive supercars from Bugatti and Ferrari and Lamborghini was always this magical 2-second barrier from 0 to 100. But you're paying over $1 million for cars like that. So the Plaid version will go 0 to 100 in 1.99 seconds. The Plaid Plus, they say, will be faster. They haven't actually put a time on it yet. I don't know if they've done enough testing with it yet. But the good part about the Plaid Plus that's more practical is not just being able to go from 0 to 100 in less than 1.99 seconds, but also the range. You're talking about over 800 kilometres of range. Now, I'd be pretty confident that if you kept accelerating from 0 to 100 in less than 2 seconds over and over, you probably wouldn't get 800 kilometres of range out of it. But driving it normally on the highway at normal speeds, you'll get that over 800 kilometre range out of it. So that's pretty impressive. They've done a whole new redesign as well, Tony. The steering wheel looks like something out of a Formula One car. It's basically no top on the steering wheel, so they've cut the top off so you would hold it on the 2 sides like you would in an F1 car. A lot of controls are on the steering wheel. For example, your blinkers. There's no stalks anymore. Your blinkers are on the steering wheel. And the real interesting one is that you have at the moment, the current Model S, you use the right-hand stalk to put it into drive or reverse or park. There is no stalk to put it into what direction you want to go. It uses AI on the vehicle and the cameras around the vehicle to work out which direction it thinks you want to go, and then will automatically put it into forward, reverse, or park for you, which sounds interesting or scary or a whole range of different things there. If you're not confident with that, you've still got the touch screen in the middle that you can choose the direction you want to go into. But again, this is the first total refresh of the Model S since it came out in 2012.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder how they can achieve these sort of figures and still keep traction with the wheels.
Well, I would suggest that is the limit, Tony. You're talking about over 1,100 horsepower in the old Imperial form of power that this thing will have with its 3 motors that it's got. And so I'm pretty certain that if they could get more traction out of their tyres, they could go faster. But you're right, that's where the limitation is. And there's no good having wheel spin, because obviously that doesn't get you going very fast. So that's really what we're talking about here, is just that limit of the coefficient of friction between the rubber on the tyres and bitumen.
And that would have to be an all-wheel drive, no doubt.
Yeah, all of the Teslas are now 4-wheel drive. They used to come out with some 2-wheel drive models in the early days, but they found that no one wanted to buy them. Everyone wanted to buy the 4-wheel drive models. To make their manufacturing more efficient, they just scrapped the 2-wheel drive models, and all Teslas for probably the last 5 years have been 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. Always exciting talking about EVs. Now, but something that's very interesting, it says in this next topic that wood can be turned transparent to make energy-saving windows. Well, of course, a lot of people wouldn't realise, but cellophane is actually made out of tree material. I think it's out of the bark of one of the trees, in fact.
Oh, well, I didn't
So,
know that either, Tony.
oh, well, there you go. I know something you don't. How on earth did that happen?
There's always opportunities for learning, Tony.
That's dead right, isn't it? Oh, well, at least I've surprised you, Matthew. That's good. So anyway, now, do you want me to just restate the question because you seem to have lost your train of thought here?
Not at all, Tony. No, so transparent wood has been available for a little while. The problem is that the way they've made the wood transparent is they've removed a component called lignin, which most people would be aware of is in wood. And that's a bit of an issue because that's one of the main structural components of wood. So when they remove lignin, then what happens is the wood is transparent, but it's nowhere near as strong. So you can't really use it in the same way that you would use normal wood. But this new process actually just makes the lignin transparent. And once they've got that transparent, they can make the wood transparent. So effectively you end up with a wood that's still reduced in strength slightly, but much stronger than the lignin removed wood, still mainly transparent. So 90% of light will pass through it. So it's mainly transparent, still got a lot of strength. You could actually end up with, get ready for it, a transparent house. I'm not sure if you'd want that. I'm not sure if you'd want the bathroom and the toilet transparent. But the great part about it is wood has still got a lot of insulative properties. So you can keep the cold or the heat out of the house, much easier to keep the house at the right temperature. So from an environmental perspective and from a cost perspective of keeping your house at the right temperature, much better to have wood where your windows used to be. And so that's the main reason they're trying to work on transparent wood. But also you can imagine the applications once you've got a building material that can be used from a structural perspective and also be transparent. So pretty exciting. I expect it'll be probably a couple of years down the track before we see this commercially available, but development in a whole range of different products is happening all the time, and this is just another one of those exciting ones.
I wonder what the flammability's like with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't got all the specs on it yet, but look, it certainly sounds exciting. It can be used for load bearing. It can be used, it's stronger than glass, not brittle like glass. So I think a whole range of different advantages there.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the big things these days is climate change and the use of energy. So is there a better option, economic option, for hot and dry regions across our nation and similar nations to ours?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a whole range of work that's being done at the moment across the world, probably not as much in Australia as we'd like, in creating an economically viable renewable energy sector. And one of the areas I think that there's a huge amount of potential is in creating hydrogen. And there's some regions down in Victoria at the moment that are typically hot and dry regions, not fantastic for farming because they are fairly dry, but lots of sun, lots of abilities to create energy from renewable power sources like the sun. And so industry body NERA has just announced $1.75 million for these little hydrogen technology clusters. Now, hydrogen, they're talking about being possibly an $11 billion industry for the Australian economy by 2050, so some way off, but it's got to start somewhere. And so in the Mallee region in Victoria is one of the first areas they're looking at. To create hydrogen, what you typically need is water, because H2O, obviously there's hydrogen in water, but on top of water, you need lots of power. And obviously providing that with coal-fired power stations isn't great for the environment. But if you can provide that power via renewable energy, such as solar panels, then suddenly you've got this hydrogen source, which is a very green source of energy. When you use that hydrogen, it ends up being water at the other end of the process. So basically it takes water, takes it into hydrogen, and then in a process where you'll use that fuel, it takes it back to water. So that's pretty exciting, and you can start to see applications for hydrogen in things like ships, in things like planes, where maybe batteries, for example in cars, batteries can be quite convenient, but in a plane or a ship, you may not have that same convenience. But energy, the energy source of hydrogen is obviously more energy in a sort of a dense format, so you can use it in things like ships and planes. So pretty exciting to have that green energy source potential, but different areas across Australia, really all they've got to do is get that solar power. And you still need a source of water because you've got to convert that water to hydrogen, but it's water that you can get in different ways rather than relying on rainfall for crops, for example.
Yeah, and I know Twiggy Forrest is doing a lot of research on this at the moment. He's actually putting a pilot plant in as well. So It's a rapidly changing space. I know Germany's also doing a lot of work, so could be a big future in hydrogen.
There's no reason, Tony, that Australia couldn't be a huge source of hydrogen around the world. We've got lots of sunlight, we've got lots of ability to create renewable power, and then using that into a portable form like hydrogen would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I might add it's 59 days to April Fool's Day, and you're listening to Binjang 91.5 and Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. And you should listen to us next week because we've got some great information and more interesting stuff happening there and then. So in the morning and in the afternoon and in the meantime, it's back to our program and all the information and all the great music on Binjang.
Thanks, Tony. Talk to you next week.